All right, traders, this is Christian Primehurst, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, February 8th. So, what can you say about today? Very strong upside continuation, strong breadth, strong momentum, a lot of areas just continuing to go higher here. Let's see, for the indices, up 72 basis points. And just kind of, interesting, the acceleration at the end of the day. We've been seeing this, I think it's the last 2 or 3 days where, market really didn't move that much throughout the session, right? We kind of gapped up, which we see this a lot on, over the weekend coming into a Monday where futures rally a bit. This is where we started for the day, and we, for the overall market, right? The S&P, the largest stocks, they really are not going very far for the most part of the day, right? And again, that's a lot of the move is made. This is something that you hear me talk about in these videos in the after hours market, right? So, holding, and swing trading, to me makes a lot more money than day trading, especially when the market doesn't go anywhere for the majority of the day. However, a lot of moves in single stocks. We're going to go through some of those sectors, and this phenomenon at the end of the day, where it looks like there's some decent buying going on. It's funny because I didn't hear what the MOC was today, but last couple weeks it's been for sale. But you can see as we get closer to the end of the day, we saw this on certainly on Friday too. A move into the close. Let's see if I could. Where is Friday on here? I think I've gone back a little bit too far. But here's the overnight session, and here's Friday. So yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy to see these end of day moves. I think we saw a couple again. Like I said, I'm trying to go back, but I think we saw a couple of them last week. A rally into the close. I think this is it here. But let's look at the other. Same thing with the Qs, right? Coming into the day, up about 0.5%. And it invites a little bit of sellers into the day. I mean, this is where we were at about 11:40, which was the low of the day. By the way, right into the top of value for the day. So maybe a little bit of a selling program here and there. I always get the question, is there news on the tape when that happens? No, I think it's just, there's a lot of longs in this market. From time to time, they're going to take some profits, and I think when the market opens up 0.5%, 1%, that invites sellers to kind of come in, take some profits, kind of look around a little bit. So I think that's why we're getting some of this jittery moves, around the open and around the first couple hours of the day, and then you could see where we finished. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is IWM is doing something completely different. IWM finished up 2.5% for the day, so small caps are continuing to rage. Again, it looks different, right? They were up 1% going into the open today, and they are just continuing to grind higher throughout the session. So, more money seems to be going into smaller areas of the market. I think we're continuing to kind of see that when you look at single names. Just a lot of smaller cap names seem to really it's becoming quite regular where, we'll see a lot of names that are up between 5 to 10% in a day. That's just the environment that we're in right now. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it kind of continues. If we scale back and look at an S&P chart, or we could look at the IWM chart too. But we're above value here, so we've had a number of green bars in a row. One of the things that I talked about in the TTG weekend video, macro video, was there was a lot of expectations about some type of correction in February or dip. I don't know if correction. That's too severe of a term. But, I mean, we may still get that. I don't have a crystal ball. But in the beginning of the month, right, I mean, this could have been construed as the correction, right, that we saw from, at the very end of, January into the beginning of February, where hedge funds had to deleverage, especially long and shorts, because of the whole short squeeze phenomenon that went on a couple weeks ago. So I don't know. Was that the big, move, the weakness that everybody was expecting in February? Because we certainly haven't gotten it so far. And, I think many things could be in the realm of possibilities. We could check back to the top of value at some point this month. But I tell you, for now, it's been a great trading environment and a lot of opportunities. We're still getting some names roll out earnings, but, here's what the performance looks like. And again, if ever you can't see this, if the screen is not in high def, YouTube hasn't finished rendering the video, so you just have to wait a little bit longer. So if the screen's blurry, that's why. But yeah, if we kind of look across sectors, the pot stocks, right? I use the MJ ETF, continues to move higher. We did take out this version point of control, so we can look at these. My favorite name to play in this, which I got out of last week and it's still going up, is GRWG, right? A little bit of consolidation and really a power move from 45 to 63 bucks after a big move already. So that's the name that I like to play. I know there's plenty of others within the group, a lot of small cap names too that are continuing to show a lot of momentum to them, right? So this one VPOC taken out, I think, not making any predictions, but I think this goes to 2651. This is last year's value area, right? So I'm on the weekly chart. Last year's value area, 2651 is the point of control. Notice that the price action was not even in last year's value area. So we're getting pretty close to that point of control from last year. That's called the version point of control. That's why there's a red line there. And that could be where we might take a little bit of a pause in the pot stocks if I had to guess. Also, the blockchain ETF, big monster move in this thing today, up 11%. I don't even have this in my spreadsheet, but I should. This is something that I added to the TTG Trend Portfolio last week, and pretty good timing. And I'll tell you, you looked at this thing and I was like, it's tough to kind of put this thing in a portfolio when it's already up so much, right? It was up to $43. I kind of felt like it had already broken out, right? And some people are like, oh, you should be taking targets there. Well, look what it did today, right? It's up 11%. So, the reason why I added this into the TTG portfolio now is because, I think that, as we heard this morning with Elon Musk now, saying that, he converted $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. I just think we're going to see this more and more. Right? I think that more of institutions, more companies are adopting not just Bitcoin, but overall cryptos. So I think there's a decent runway, and it's tough to add something up here, right? But I'm glad I did because it's up 11% today. So, and if you look at this ETF, right? If you're not familiar with this ETF, right, you're like, what is this thing? Amplify Blockchain Leaders ETF. But if you look at the members of this, as you should with any ETF when you look at it, it's MSTR, it's so MicroStrategy, Silvergate, Marathon Patent, Mara, right, which is a nice little wine too. That's a different story. You got Square and PayPal in here, right? So you got all the names, and I just view, if I'm going to stick something in what I call the TTG Trend Portfolio, which is a little bit of a longer term trade, I would rather have the ETF of these names versus the individual name because I think these are volatile names, right? I mean, the whole group was up 10% today. So, not just saying, if you look at the movers in this thing today, Mara was up 42%, Riot Blockchain up 40%. So this is what I was referring to in terms of small caps. These things are just absolutely on fire. Same thing with the micro caps too. But even the bigger names, the Square. I was on the TD Ameritrade network earlier today, and I talked about Square. It's the first day of a breakout. Now you could draw a channel in here, and you could say that, hey, it's kind of at the top of the historic channel. I get that. And somebody was telling me on Twitter that, taking profits here. I agree with taking some profits here, but it's just the first day back to 52, to new highs. So I think it could run. I think it could continue to run into earnings, right? So that's, we talked about pot stocks, we talked about blockchain stocks, and then you've got a couple other groups that were very strong today. The clean energy stocks, I also added PBW into the TTG Trend Portfolio last week too. So this is, this is also kind of slouching on the day, only up 3% for the day. But I'm joking around. But these moves, you look at moves now and you're like, oh, it's only up 2%. No, not that big of a deal. Nice to kind of, this one is not completely. I added it, towards the end of last week, not before it broke out. So it looks like it's headed that way. And again, if you look at these names, right, I feel a little bit more comfortable holding this group. Right, LAC had a nice day today, up 14%. Reggie, we'll talk about that in just a second, but I want to just bring up the overall constituents, right? Here's the names of this: SOL, DQ, right? So these are all volatile names. Small caps is extremely volatile. They're nice. I swing trade a lot of these names individually, but if I just want to hold a portfolio, I think this is hold an ETF that covers the theme. I think this is a good way to do it, right? So that's our TTG Trend Portfolio. Longer term, we're going to be talking about this in a couple weeks, where basically how I'm doing this. What I like to refer to as Kathy Wood refers to her flagship product. My trading account is my flagship product, right? And then of course I have the TTG Trend Portfolio. The performance has to be updated there, and the watch list program too, which is up over 50% since we started that in August. So I'll get to that in a second. Also, besides those areas that were strong today. Look at what I like to refer to as dirty energy. XOP up 6.4%. We've been seeing some call buying, especially in XLE, which was up over 4%. The Homebuilders have been strong today. Bonds were actually kind of strong today. It's funny how this works, right? We've been talking, we talked a lot about the weakness in bonds last week. And bonds were strong today, and everybody's talking about the fear of the bonds and interest rates going higher and so forth. I really think that you have to zoom out a little bit, right? I get that interest rates are starting to move higher, but I've showed this chart a few times over the last week, right? You look at it from this perspective, and you're like, wow, bonds have really gone down south, right? Right, and especially like if you want to look at the weekly chart, which I've been talking about too. However, you have to remember the overall level here. These guys in the media are trying to scare you and trying to make up something that's really not there. For now, I don't think, and this is just my opinion, and everything in this video is my opinion. It's for education purposes only, not giving out any advice, recommendations. Our risk disclaimer was just up there a second ago. But remember, were you scared about interest rates in the beginning of last year, right, before COVID hit? No. So we're not even back to those levels of where we were in the beginning of next year. So put this stuff in perspective. They're trying to scare you in the media about rising interest rates. We are at such a low level that, yes, we're coming off those very low levels. So look at a weekly chart. If you don't want to use bond futures, you could look at TLT, right? We're talking about the long end of the curve. We're not even back to where we were in the beginning of last year. So nobody was worried about interest rates then. So why would you worry about them now, right? Just because they're moving a little bit. I agree. I get a little bit worried when things move fast, right? And we're not there yet, right? So rather than anticipating, let's see where interest rates want to go at the long end of the curve. But again, don't fall into what the media is trying to sell you on about interest rates going higher. Zoom out and take a look at the overall level of interest rates. They're not high. All right, so we'll return to this if they do continue to get higher, and I'm not saying that if they do continue to get higher, there won't be concerns. But right now, come on, So yeah, I mean, and that's why we're seeing the home builders go up too, because the rates are for mortgages are very low. Even if they go up, again, I'm not an expert on mortgage rates, but I'm thinking another 25 basis points, is that going to discourage you from buying a house? Another, if they increase 25 basis points, probably not. Maybe 1 or 2 percentage points, sure. Right? But that's 100, 200 basis points. We're talking about maybe 25. So I think the home builder is very strong. I sent out a chart of this on Sunday, but you can look what's going on here. I mean, this is a very strong group right now, right? And if you look at this, if you look at some of these charts, right, they're all kind of doing the same thing. Lennar was very strong on Friday, and this continued to go higher. DHI is one of my favorites in the space. I also like this Top Builds name that's also out to new highs. So you're finding very, very strong strength in this group. The semiconductors were kind of came back, right? They kind of got hit a little bit, Qualcomm, Qorvo on earnings, but there's when that happens, there's a lot of good setups. How can we not talk about this one? Nvidia, first time we're back to these levels here, 577. What's really interesting here is I've been stopped out in a trade, trying to play like a little bit of an option trade the last few times. Listen, I don't get discouraged by that, right? Those have been paper cut trades for me, right? And it's tough because every time this thing has started strong, I don't want to say every time, but a lot of times this Nvidia has started strong in the beginning of the day, only to give back gains. So it's nice to see this, right? And it's pretty exciting considering I think a lot of people have been looking at how coiled this has been, and maybe we're going to start to break out of this, right? We've now consolidated for a while. This puts things in perspective. I think if you look at the weekly chart, this has been such a big mover, right? This stock went from 200 to 500. So it's, to me, natural that it's taken its time consolidating because it's made such a big move, right? It's made some huge moves over the last few years. So yeah, I think consolidation and big consolidation was normal, but look at what we got going on here, right? So we are now, and this is a weekly bar, so it's only Monday, so we don't know how this is going to look by the end of the week, but we're off to a good start on this weekly bar, and we're moving above value, right? It looks really good on the weekly bar. The only thing that I don't like is that we're on Monday, right? And the bar could completely change from where it is. For now, I I chased a little bit, and I put on a trade. I had to bite the bullet a little bit, but I wanted to see though. It's never fun buying a name up 4%, but at the same point, like I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to do what it's done previously and give back the gains. So I bought right around 570 today. Again, I took my time. I noticed we had a lot of call buying around the open, and I didn't chase it, and it moved very, very quickly. Like I said, I was on the TD Ameritrade network, so I couldn't do a lot of trading right around the open. So I had to kind of be patient here a bit. But yeah, I mean, I wanted that confirmation. So again, it's just one day. I don't know what we're going to get tomorrow, but I like I like that strength. Right, and some other trades, I made a little bit. This is not. I'm not going to call this a mistake, but I got out of this Zynga just because it reports in 2 days, and it's announced that Glue is taking over. EA is taking over Glue. Zynga got a nice pop. So if you're in it, if you're still in it, congratulations. I got out of it for small profits today. Just one of those things where. The reason why I got out of this, other than it reports in 2 days, and I probably didn't want to hold it through earnings, is just there's a lot of good looking trades on the tape, and it's tough to kind of say that you're going to just keep accumulating trades, right? For me, if I add a few trades, I got to take some off, and hopefully I'm taking them off for profits. CELH, one that we took off for some profits today, not the whole piece. I just listened to the CEO earlier. It sounds like they're still kind of in the early adoption phase. This trade, by the way, easy level to watch here is right around 64.86. It did not close above value, so it's made a nice move. We want to see a higher high here, so we'll see how it does there, right around that 64.84 level. And I got into back into a solar name today. This is part of our watch list trade. I use the watch list trade not only for the trade itself, but also for swing trades. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I like how this thing is just coming out of the short-term moving averages. You got a little moving average crunch here, and I'm looking to target about 340 in this trade before possibly before it gets to earnings. So I did take a couple targets in that one. STNG, nice move today. Let's see, where did this thing finish for the day? Yeah, not bad. I mean, it didn't close on the highs. That's why I took a target. I'm targeting this 1636 VPOC in STNG. Right, this is a tanking company. I got into this because I heard about all kinds of tanker shortages and so forth. Right, so it's been making a nice move here. So 1632 is what I'm targeting to take a little bit of a bigger target than that. Right, LAC, right, I've been in LTHM. I started that one last week. Monster day for this one, for lithium, up 10%. So I got into this one, right in here last week, and I bought a little bit of LAC today because really it's the first day out of consolidation. So this works very well. LAC target in there. Neo also looks pretty good. So again, it's kind of like a kid in a candy shop. There's a lot of good setups right now. Neo is certainly not extended. It's just trying to get off that bottom of value, and I know where my stop price is going to be, which is $55, right? But it's starting to move, and to tell you the truth, I like Neo for long, like more of a long-term trade. All right, so here is my NVIDIA starter that I mentioned, LTHM, a couple targets there, and that's it. I didn't really do much trading at the end of the day. I'm kind of content where I am. A couple other names that I mentioned on earlier is this Cloudflare. Right, I mentioned that this was my favorite setup coming into today, up 6.5%. Reports on Thursday. I think this thing can continue to run a little bit, so very strong. So here's our watch list trade. Right, I'm showing this to everybody here. We've done some work here. We've put this in a spreadsheet. Right, so you could see this is our new watch list, and what we do is we buy this on the open on Monday. Right, so I put together the watch list on Sunday. I buy it, I'm holding SPY over the weekend. And then what I do is I sell SPY, right, which was nice because it was up about 40 basis points, right? And so we've got that in here, right? So here's my SPY weekend hold, which is down here at sell 32. Right, or row 32, right? So I'm making that money, 40 basis points for holding over the weekend, right? And then here's how our watch list did. Again, from the open, right, not Friday's close, up another 1%. So this is how we've kind of been tacking on gains, right? The strategy is to try to generate alpha, right? To try to outperform SPY. Notice how we've been doing in this since inception, right? I started this trade back in August, right? So I've got all the portfolio metrics in here, and we continue to have this roll, right? And you could see here's all our videos. So we're going to be you're going to be hearing me talk a little bit more about this, but this is one of the 3 programs that I run at Tribeca Trade Group, and it's a lot of fun. It's a challenge, right? The reason why I came up with this was every weekend I was putting together a watch list, and we were noticing that it was outperforming. So I'm like, well, why am I not buying it? Right? And why don't I so I started incorporating that in August and saying, hey, let me put together a program that does it. Right? And you'll see there's a lot of nice outperformers in here. Again, the market environment is right for it, and we've got rules where this isn't going to work. But for now, as long as the S&P is above the 20-day moving average, above the 50-day moving average, we'll continue to do this. Our Reggie trade, from the open was up 9%. I think Reggie finished over 10% for the day. But this is a lot of fun, and we're automating it now. So members, in a couple weeks, we'll get the spreadsheet as well as the TTG portfolio, which is also a tab on here too. So it's exciting stuff, very exciting stuff to have this automated and ready to go, and members will be able to follow this real time rather than me posting it in the trading room. So we've got some really good stuff coming out. All right, guys, that's it for me. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.